Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Hope everybody's doing good. Karl Bryan coming at you.
Coaching Secrets. I am here on my own today. Sans Roadball and Sans an interview. I think if you're following the podcast, you know that I'm doing a series of interviews with our clients. Got a developer interview lined up next week. Actually have a number of weeks. But at the end of the day, what we're going to do today is I am just going to riff. I hope that is okay. And hopefully I can educate. Maybe I can entertain you in some way. But let's see how I do. So, look, why are you here? Business coaching 101. The goal is to, I would imagine, six figures, multiple six figures as a business coach. In many ways, you might feel challenged and you might feel excited. The opportunity to strive from how it's possible. The challenge is that how many things in front of you between the lead generation, the conversion, the fulfillment, etc. That can lead to overwhelm. If overwhelm is potentially a threat to you getting to six figures, multiple six figures, maybe you're the seven-figure coach, one of our unicorns that hits that number. What I would suggest is that you create some rules, right? Rules are well known to be, well, I'll tell you, a professional investor has got rules. An amateur investor does not have rules. What would we suggest? What would Warren Buffett suggest? What would Ray Dalio suggest? What would Charlie Munger suggest? Some very wealthy, experienced, and successful investors. They would suggest that you create some rules. What rules are standards in the investment world? Let me ask you a question. Do you know, when I ask you a question, as you sit and listen, what are Warren Buffett's rules of investment? I'm going to give you a second prediction. And if you know it, you're like really, really close, and it's just on the tip of your tongue. And that is rule number one, don't lose money. And then rule number two is see rule number one. And what makes me smile, not so much laugh, but smile, is that people will hear those rules and they think they're a throwaway line. They think that it's something that, you know what I mean? Like they don't see it as principle-based rules and something that he actually lives by. And he absolutely lives by those rules. Example. So you are Warren Buffett. Your goal is to not lose money, right? Would you invest in Bitcoin? And then my question would be, why? Why would you invest in Bitcoin, or why would you not if you're Warren Buffett? And I think you probably are. Here's another question. Would you invest in Apple, and would you not invest in Apple? Let me give you one word, okay, to help you with the answer. It's utility, okay? Something with a high level of utility has got very little chance of downside risk, and something without utility has got massive impacts. So translation, could Bitcoin go to zero? And the answer is absolutely. It's, again, why? Because there's no utility. You go to 7-Eleven, you get $100 million of Bitcoin. You go to 7-Eleven and try to buy an Apple, and guess what? You can't buy an Apple with the Bitcoin. There's no utility. There's no card that you can put into the machine. Versus Apple, if you were walking down the street and you went, oh my gosh, I forgot my phone, what would you do? You would stop, and you would drive, and you would turn around the car, you'd go back home, you'd unlock the door, you'd get your phone, and you'd go. The question is why? And it's the high level of utility. That's why Apple is Apple, because of the unbelievable utility. And by the way, the iPhone is great, but let me tell you what's way bigger than that. Way greater than that is the iTunes, App Store, Apple Pay, all these recurring revenue not just opportunity, like fulfillment, like recurring revenue model of Apple. And that's what makes it so sexy. So Warren Buffett, yes, there's some down, like Apple could have a bad year. They could lose a little bit of money. The chances of it going down tremendously, like 20%, in his opinion, and his opinions worth listening to, there's very little to no chance of that happening. That being said, are they continue to grow? Does he see an opportunity for them to grow? And the answer is absolutely. And remember, he doesn't buy a stock that he doesn't want to hold for 10 years or longer. In fact, he doesn't buy a stock that he doesn't want to own forever. Right? So keep that in mind. If they have a bad year, that is not the end of the world. He doesn't sell. He doesn't lose money. At the end of the day, though, Warren Buffett has got 2 rules. Okay? Let me give you something else. What about losing some weight? You may or may not experimented with losing weight over the last period of time. Well, let me give you 2 rules of losing weight. 1, eat less. 2, work out more. That's it. It's $100 billion industry, and I think I just abolished it with 2 rules. You don't need Gene Craig. You don't need, to pay somebody jobs. What you need to do is eat less and work out more. And follow and yes, there's anomalies. In business, we don't follow anomalies. We only follow percentages, right? So, so that being said, and by the way, how would you like to pour gasoline on your results? All you do is create a tracking mechanism. Okay, so you start tracking how much you work out, and you start tracking how much you eat on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis, and the results will be incredible. And then, by the way, so Warren Buffett, if you're investing, right, take your bank balance and write down your bank balance every single day, every single week, every single month, every single quarter, every single, annually. By the way, create some projections and some goals for your bank balance and track it. And I guarantee by osmosis, if you start tracking it, it will go in the right direction. Do that with your client list with your business coaching, right? How many clients you got? What is your revenue? Write it down every single day. Every single day. It's probably going to be the same for a number of days. That's okay. And it'll drive you nuts, by the way. And that's part of why the gasoline pours. So at the end of the day, though, you bring things down to simple rules. So we'd like to give you 2 rules of business coaching. And by the way, I give you 2 rules of your client's business. The 2 rules that Warren Buffett operates his business by. 2 rules that Elon Musk runs Tesla and Twitter, or now known as X, formerly known as Twitter, X. 2 rules. Here they are. And if you are able, you might want to write these down, or you might want to pull over, or you might want to take these and put them into your phone, because I can tell you there's some magic, in my opinion, in these. And what are the 2 rules? Number 1, get clients. Rule number 2, keep clients. Rule number 1, get clients. Rule number 2, keep clients. That's it. It's that simple. It is that simple. By the way, recurring revenue, repeat customers equal profit. Right about that. Right? Recurring revenue equals profit. Repeat customers equal profit. So now it's a little bit of an acid test. Okay, so let's say that you may be doing a 4-day training on how to read financial statements and find your high-end coaching fees prior to starting with your new high-end coaching client. In that training, you probably remember. If you don't, you probably know if you've done any of our training, this will make sense to you. If you're not exposed to our training, we'll teach you something I think very, very valuable. And that is, if your client has 20% net margins and you earn them $1, how much do they keep? And so they earn $1, they got 20% net margins, how much do they keep? Okay, the answer is 20 cents. Right? 80 gets lit on fire through expenses. 20 is what they get to keep. Okay, when you go to your client's credit card statement, when you go to their P&L and you go to their expense items and you go line by line, itemized to every single expense, when you save them $1 by cutting costs, how much do they keep? If you make them $1, how much do they keep in cents? You know the answer? And if you just answered 100, you would be correct. So, translation, if you were to be a business coach at $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year, do you think it would be a better idea to make them money, make them sales, or start with their P&L and their expense line items and save them some money. And you'd be correct in that it's a lot less sexy and it's a lot less entertaining and it's a lot less woo-woo and exciting. But I'll tell you that going to their P&L and going to their expenses and saving them some money, if you're 24 grand a year, that's a great place to start. And then, by the way, you raise their prices and lower their costs. You get this awesome separation, and this is how you can pay your fees so quickly. It's gobsmacking. If you've ever been exposed to our profit acceleration simulator, again, it's right there in spades. You get a compounding effect with small incremental changes in multiple areas. They multiply instead of add, and frankly, it's almost like magic. What did Einstein say? That the compound interest was the eighth wonder of the world. And I would dare say that if he was exposed to profit acceleration software and he saw the Jumpstart 12 and he saw the way he did it, I think that he'd be pretty darn impressed. And whether or not he would say that it's the eighth wonder of the world remains to be seen. But I'll tell you, he'd be damn impressed. But at the end of the day, you are trying to find your 24 grand. That can be very, very powerful. Okay, so P&L expenses. Now, let's do an exercise with our clients. Okay, you ask your client this question as you see an expense: does it get us a client? Does it keep us a client? If the answer to that is no, maybe you don't put a line through it immediately. But he's got to do a sales job, or she's got to do a sales job, on whether or not, on why it should be kept in the business, right? It's like a magazine subscription, as an example. Tell me, it's only a small amount of money, but remember, small incremental adjustments, you get a multiplying effect. Okay, so again, the magazine subscription, is it getting them a new client? And the answer is probably not. So guess what? It goes up, right? Rent. So it's eliminate, but also negotiate. So what if we look at rent, and let's say that it's $5,000 a month, 60 grand a year? What if we just cut back? Why don't we go to the landlord and say, look, if we've been here for 5 years and we're now on a month-to-month agreement, if we re-up for 3 years, the competition's trying to get me down the road, and they've got a better location and a bigger location, but I don't really want to move. Question for you is, would you bring me back? Would you do me for $4 grand a month? For $4 grand a month if I re-up for 3 years instead of 5, and you just save them $12,000 a year. Where does that $12,000 go? All of it goes straight into their bank account. That's a really good thing. So you negotiate. So you go through line by line. Where do business owners get caught up? Let me tell you, trying to make their businesses sexy. What do I mean? I got a buddy who owns a trucking company, successful trucking company. If you're in a house right now, and you're in a building, or you're in an office, with 100% certainty, there's nothing that got to that office that did not arrive on a truck. Okay, so transportation is a very big industry and not a bad one to go into. By the way, Amazon just went into it for a reason, cost. So he loves his trucks. He's got Peterbilt, so he's got 10 trucks. They're Peterbilts. You don't know what that is. It's just a high-end, cool truck, and he loves his trucks. He's in the trucking business because he loves his trucks, okay? Well, and he loves his music as well. Somebody knocks on the door, says, I got an amazing opportunity. Like, I've got these new stereos, okay, and speakers, and we will install them. They're normally $2,500. You can have them for $2 grand, and there's 10 of them. Okay, so what is that? 2 grand multiplied by 10 is 20 grand. Should he buy 10 stereos for his trucks? Does it get him a client? Does it keep him a client? And the answer is probably no and no. So now we've got to sell us, right? And when I think, well, yeah, but look, my guys, it's about my drivers and my staff members. And if I've got a great stereo, they're then going to be happier in, the truck. So I think that that's going to be good. And then I say, okay, look, let's go to the existing trucks and let's have a look at the stereos that we got. And then how much better and how much louder and how much clearer is that stereo? And it's like, really? Do you really think that that's going to keep your employee around? And let's assume that it is no, and we put our conflict, right? What about somebody rolls up and they got new tires, right? Like, again, just imagine you ever seen like a really aggressive, cool looking truck. It's like I've got a Jeep, right? And then I've got the Jeep, the tires stick out from the Jeep. And most alpha male types, right, will see this. And cool looking. And it's a bit to do with the aggressiveness of having the wheels stick out a little bit from the vehicle. Well, imagine a Peterbilt who had a little bit wide tires that you got to be careful because it's, the laws and whatnot. But just play with me here. In the bigger tires look cooler. Somebody shows up on a red hot deal. Let's just call it 20 grand for simple math. Should he invest 20 grand in getting new wheels for his 10 trucks? And by the way, he would get nowhere near 10 trucks done for 20 grand. So let's play. Is that something that you would recommend him to do? And the answer is, does it get the truck there faster? Does it get the truck there safer? Let's agree that that answer is no. So guess what? We don't buy new tires, right? Versus, okay, we are going to get our vehicles serviced on a quarterly basis on time. Come hell or high water, we're going to be on time and we're going to get some service. Now, is this a good idea? And does this get him clients and does it keep him clients? The question is, what happens if he doesn't service his vehicles? One breaks down. What happens if one breaks down? He doesn't show up on time. What does that do? Makes him unreliable. They give somebody else a test. And then they do, they end up moving in another direction. So absolutely, positively, servicing of vehicles is something that we should be doing. Right? So that would be something that passes the asset. No doubt. Get clients, keep clients. Get clients, keep clients. Get clients, keep clients. You're going through the P&L, you're going through their expenses, and you see how they do in that regard. So, and by the way, if you haven't got access to our 4-day training on how to read financial statements, I'm going to highly only get access to it if you're a client, by the way. So apologies to another client. And, very important. But the bottom line, and what I want to impress upon you there, get clients, keep clients. 2 rules: keep it simple, stupid. It doesn't get you a client, it doesn't keep you a client. I'm going to suggest you put a line to it. And then I would also say that, okay, so if we're talking about rules, one of the things, you've got a 6-figure business coaching company, you've got a multiple 6-figure coaching company, you want it 7 figures. There are 3 baskets for your company. If you follow the podcast, I've spoken about them in the past, but critically important. And every single day you wake up and you're doing a task, I would challenge you to look at your to-do list and then put each of the to-dos under lead gen, conversion, fulfillment. So you know exactly where you're working. Well, you're working with one of these clients for an hour, but it's clearly on fulfillment. Okay? When you are working with a prospect and you're sitting down and you're looking to close them at $2 grand a month, 24 grand a year, this is conversion. If you are picking up the phone and you're doing Facebook advertising and you're sending out messages on Facebook and LinkedIn, private messages, etc., sending out emails, forming a joint venture, that would fall under lead generation, right? Really simple. And by the way, I could give you the best lead gen, the best conversion, the best fulfillment strategies. If we don't handle your mindset, I give you the best strategy in the world, the Facebook campaign that was totally bulletproof. But if your mindset's not right, you're not going to be able to get very far, right? Let me tell you, the ultimate hack is a level of thinking. It's not a strategy. It's not a tactic. It's a level of thinking, right? Some people think in millions, and then some people think in billions. When you're thinking in billions, you're just thinking at a higher level. Some people are trying to fill a local live event and getting 10 people. And then some people are filling 52 live events every single week, come hell or high water, missing Thanksgiving, the show goes on. Christmas, the show goes on. Maybe you wouldn't quite do it on Christmas, by the way. But, Boxing Day, the show goes on. New Year's Eve, the show goes on. Again, you become ridiculously consistent. You become, ridiculously, it's just a higher level of thinking. It's a higher level of action. And by the way, the second greatest hack, higher level of thinking is hack number 1. And then the second hack is your environment. And your environment isn't just the people you hang out with. Your environment is the audios you listen to, the mentors that you choose, the books that you read, the podcasts that you follow. Cough. Your environment is all encompassing. It's not just, but let me tell you, very important, those 5 people that you spend the most time with, very, very important. You have to be very, very careful there. And you should be, you should always be, at the end of the day, you want to be hanging out with people who are at the level that you want to be at. Really think about it. And then, so no doubt you understand that as I say it, you go, yeah, that makes sense. Question. Show me how many people that you spend an enormous amount of time with are genuinely where you want to be in 5 years. And people fail that acid test with ridiculous predictability. And I'm going to suggest that that's something that you should be working on, because ultimately that your greatest mentor, your greatest coach is you 5 years ago. Okay. And your greatest client is you. Your greatest client is you 5 years ago, and your greatest mentor is you in 5 years. Right? Really simplifying. Only second best to you 10 years ago, and a mentor who is 10 years ahead of you. Right? I mean, if I thought like the level of thinking, so I'm on the phone with coaches regularly in different capacities, right? Group calls weekly. And what I get asked, I get asked a question like this. I get asked, Karl, what should I do? And they don't use those words, but that's fundamentally what they ask, right? And then I throw it back to them and go, look, it's the wrong question, right? And then we kind of go to, how do I do it? And remember, thinking is nothing more than asking and answering questions to yourself, okay? So how do I do it? That's the next level, right? Like, it's like, how do I do it? But is that a high enough level of thinking? No. Now I want you to ask, who could do that for me? Who could generate leads for you? Who could convert clients for you? Who could fulfill on the coaching, right? You want to generate leads and close clients, and then hire somebody else to do the coaching. You want to do the coaching, hire somebody else to pick up the phone, send out the messages, and shake the trees for you, right? You want to be the lead gen, you don't want to do the conversion, hire somebody to do the selling, right? So it's who, not how. Famous book by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy. Who, not how. So thinking who. It's a higher level question. And it's a higher level undertaking, by the way. Hiring people, which people seldom do. One second. So, and now if you want to be a master, which you want to do, you want to go a little bit further, and you got to ask the question, why? Right? Karl, why should I do a local live event every week for the next 52 weeks? And then I would say that, well, look, Tony Robbins gets paid for who he is, not what he does. And if you want to be a high-level individual, a high-status individual, you've got to be seen as consistent and disciplined and, not to mention, intelligent. And the way that you do that is by getting up in front of an audience. And then what happens is we get in front of an audience, we get, two groups together, and then we go, oh, it doesn't work. Here's the thing. There's a saying in business, you get what you deserve. And the problem is you don't deserve a good audience yet, because you haven't done these local live events. Once you've done 10 of these events, watch what happens to the quality of the audience. And then watch what happens to your conversion. And then watch what happens on how easy it is to fill the events. Because what ends up happening, by the way, you get a ton of referrals. And then that's a domino that knocks everything over, because it's so much easier to fill the event, which is hands down the most difficult task to do ongoing. Right? But the question is why? Like, why are you doing this? And then you can go deeper. Like, one of the things, like, my big brother committed suicide over a business failing. My mother then drank herself to death, and I had a front row seat, self-imposed punishment, so to speak. But I am like the poster of like business gone sideways, right? I was the little brother. I was the youngest, and I just had a front row seat for a whole bunch of carnage, right? That's a big part of why I do what I do, right? I don't want to see others. Marriages break up. Read my daily email. Marriages break up. Why? They break up from a lack of money over a lack of love times 1,000, right? They break up over a lack of money over a lack of love times 1,000. Well, why should you kill your event? Why should you, why should you work 12 hours a day today instead of 4 hours a day? Why should you actually work 12 hours today and not hide behind the phone and hide behind your computer, stare at the phone and experience pain? Because you're not doing it for you. You'll always do more for others than you do for yourself, right? So create that target, create that. Who are you doing it for? Why are you genuinely doing this? And believe me, nobody, like coaching, there are easier ways, to earn a crust. Without doubt, if I sat you down, I would be able to pull out of you why you're doing this at a very high level, even if you don't currently see it. And by the way, if you know what I want to know what I would do, these exercises that I find the 3 most painful life events. You normally can take which you won't necessarily connect the dot right now, but after you think it through and you see a series of events and inflection points, you go back to that and go, wow, I never realized. So anyway, the bottom line is why, right? So you ask, what do I do? You ask, how do I do it? You ask, who can I get to do this? Ask why, and you're at the highest level. This is the way the masters are doing it. This is the way I suggest you do it. Because that can be a domino that knocks a lot of the others. When you start operating from that level, putting 10 people in a room on Tuesday becomes a little bit easier, right? And remember this, you'll be remembered for what you refuse to give up on. And also pay this, you're not too late. There's a lot of coaches that I speak to, a lot of clients that we have, and again, they don't use those words, but they feel like they're too late to really make an impact. And then we got Ray Kroc started his first McDonald's at what age? 52. Colonel Sanders started his first KFC at what age? I mean, he was 61. Right? Rodney Dangerfield did not star in a movie until he was 45 years old. Samuel Jackson was in his mid-40s as well. I think whatever his first role was, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't Pulp Fiction, but that was one of his earlier on in his career that you may realize. But at the end of the day, he didn't crack it until his 40s. So you're not too late is what I'm getting at there. And Warren Buffett, by the way, made 98% of his money after the age of 50. So again, thinking about that. But at the end of the day, let's talk. So like I said, we're going to talk about lead gen, and then it's going to be conversion, and then it's going to be fulfillment. Let's go to lead gen real quick, right? Lead pros win tournaments, losers lose tournaments. What do I mean by that? When you watch Wimbledon, you want to see who wins. I don't need to see the score. I need to see the unforced errors. And let me tell you that the guy with the less unforced errors or the gal with the least unforced errors generally wins, right? Not all of the time, but absolutely an 80-20, 95% of the time. With the unforced errors, it's 6-4, 6-4, 6-4 when Djokovic smokes everybody all the way through, right? He's not winning all of the points. He's just winning the important points, right? So I want you to think of like idea versus plan. So what you've got to do with your lead generation, you want to generate leads. I talked about this in our pre-show. All you've got to do, and this is the secret of our local Legends, a live event program that we have, you have got to pick up the phone. And when I say pick up the phone, metaphorically, for shaking trees, kissing babies, run Facebook ads, run on LinkedIn, hire somebody in the Philippines. At the end of the day, for 2 hours a day, and this should be, if your airplane is on the ground, this needs to be you. Please don't hire somebody to do this. This needs to be you. If you just feel like you can't do it, you haven't established your why. You know, you're thinking about you instead of thinking about them, and that will be the hack. At the end of the day, you just got to pick up the phone. You just need to shake trees for 2 hours. And I assure you that you will be able to create enough action to be able to you get 20 clients at $2,000 a month. It's $480,000 a year with 80% margins. But you will absolutely, if you are willing to do that for 8 hours a day for 365 days, it's almost impossible for you not to get your 20 clients, right? But that being said, don't think of, I've said in the last few weeks a few times, but you got an idea, you need a plan. Okay, come up with the idea that you're going to generate leads. Show me your plan. And what does the plan look like? We actually built a lead generation portal in our software for our clients, and it really looks, and here's the front that I created. It is pre, it is app, and it is post. What do I mean? You're going to go to a networking function and you want to get clients. What are you going to do before the event? You got to practice your elevator pitch. You got to create your offer. You got to know what your game plan is. You need to know how many people you're going to speak to. Maybe reach out to some people that are going to be coming before you show up to engage in a conversation. What's your plan before? Okay. What is your plan at the event? What's going to happen when you get into a conversation and you can't get out of one? What are you going to do? Got to go to the bathroom, got to go get a drink, got to go promise Bill that I would speak before he went, right? Come up with your story to get out of that conversation, because you probably want to have a conversation with 5 to 10 people, not 1 to 2. By the way, depends upon the dynamic, and maybe that one individual, those 2 individuals are going to be the needle movers. I don't know. You know, you'll have to play that by ear, but again, that would be part of your plan, right? But you got to have a before, an app, and then a post, a pre-app post, and then post. What's post? Create the email before you go that you're going to follow up with, right? And then all of a sudden you'll be excited to send it. What do most folks do? They go to the networking function, they collect some. They hand out the business cards and they come back and then, have to craft every email, and every message individually. Horrible idea. What you got to do is you got to have that plan beforehand. And again, that is not an idea. That is a plan. You don't want to have ideas. You want to have plans, which, by the way, what does Mike Tyson say about plans? Plans are great until you get punched in the mouth, right? So if you're fighting Tyson and he punches you in the mouth, you've got to revert back to your training to get back into the fight. So it's not the plan. It's Eisenhower. He said that, the planning is useless, but the planning is invaluable. So it's the planning that will allow you to think on your feet and push through and effectively get you that result you're looking for, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to go to a trade show. You want to have, before you go to the trade show, at the trade show, and post the trade show. And that is why people, lead generation doesn't work. And remember, pros win tournaments, losers lose tournaments. Be careful there. And then what about conversion, right? I want you to think they're not skeptical, they're gutless. Okay, think of that as a frame. They're not skeptical, they're gutless, right? And of course, that's a little bit on the harsh side, but when you go in with that attitude, you might find it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit, you might have a little bit more success than you would when you go in and think, oh, no, they just don't believe me, right? It's not that they don't believe you, it's that they don't believe in themselves, right? So you're going to say, look, I'm going to believe in you until you believe in yourself. Go in with that frame, right? But believe me, them being skeptical is really them being gutless. So you got to help them be gutless, and then you help them believe in themselves. And when selling coaching, consulting, higher end coaching, consulting, I always try to frame it up as money at a discount. What is money at a discount? If I had a 20 and then you had a 10, and I said, let's exchange, you'd ask three questions. One, you're full of crap. Two, you'd look for social proof. Three, you'd say yes and say, can I have a coach? Right? So money to discount. So when you sit down with somebody and you're offering your coaching and consulting, they either don't believe you that it's going to work, and then you need to go establish that connection, or they make the exchange. That's why we built Profit Acceleration software exactly the way that we did. But again, it's money at a discount. So again, that's, you frame it up in that way to do very, very well. And what is the most famous speech of all time? And it starts with 4 words. Can I tell you what it is? You either have it or it's on the tip of your tongue, but I bet when I say it, you're absolutely going to know. I have a dream. MLK, right? What he didn't say is I have a step-by-step plan. Right? He said, I have a dream. Think of my example with the marriages. Think of my example of being the poster child of a family where everything went sideways and my brother committed suicide, right? Think about that. I ultimately got a dream of running a local live event for 52 weeks, and hell or high water, rain or shine. I am going to do that event. And I am going to put 10 people in every single event. That is 520 people per year. I'm going to meet every single one of them, and collectively we are going to make, I don't want to push my goal or your goal. You got to run with that. So here's my question. What is your dream? Right? What is, when you go to your why, you go to your 3 most painful experiences as a child, and then maybe MLK didn't say is I have a step-by-step plan. Yeah, so you go to the accountant, you go to the business broker, you go to the promotional company, you go to the I have a step-by-step plan. You know what that dream is. And then when you establish that dream, have you practiced the pitch? And you stood in front of the mirror and genuinely practiced it. If you haven't, you got to do it. Right? I'm going to talk now about fulfillment of coaching. There's a saying, let me think what it is. It's, I suck at, this is Val Ravikant, by the way, to spin on something that he says. I've changed it for myself and for our clients. I suck at marketing, so I'm stuck selling. And then it's, I suck at product, so I'm stuck marketing. I suck at marketing, so I'm stuck selling. I suck at product, so I'm stuck marketing. Moral of the story is product. You may have heard me say it a few times in the last number of podcasts where a real founder will keep the company dialed in on product as opposed to company. The company, you got to think about the product. You got to think about, the outcome. When you innovate a product, look at the iPhone, right? The iPhone is the iPhone because it's freaking amazing. Facebook is Facebook. You love Facebook. You hate Facebook. You love Zuckerberg. You hate him. Facebook, the functionality of that thing, the utility of it is unbelievable, right? The reason you hate it is because you're addicted to the chance that you're addicted to it, right? LinkedIn, same thing. The product is unbelievable. I've never been on Instagram in my life, but I can tell you the product is unbelievable. TikTok, never been on that either, but the product is unbelievable, right? So again, product does that for you. That is your coaching. You are not going to have to market. You are not going to have to sell. You become unbelievable at coaching. But the truth is, and the reality may be and may not be, but your airplane might be closer to the ground and, it might be on the ground and it might be really close to the ground. And if that's the case, in order to get it up, these are the things that we've got to do. And by the way, you'll be remembered in life for what you refuse to give up on. So the trick is to look at this with a, not, if the coaches to go week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year, deciding if they're going to keep going, you're done before you even start, right? You're just like, forget it. It's not going to work out for you and for me with that attitude. You got to go all in. This is in your bones. This is in your soul, or it's not. It's a spirit-based thing, or it's not. And if it's not, look, it's not for everybody. There's other ways to go make a great living. Like I love fast cars, but it doesn't make me a mechanic. Just because you love to help people doesn't mean you're going to be a great business coach. So I would just, and that's not, I'm not trying to call you out. I'm trying to call on you. But that can be very, very, go all in on this and then don't die wondering, right? Like when I say that, you're going to be unbelievable at the business coaching at helping them. Okay, so you say to me, okay, like as an example, I'll hear, in fact, I was talking to one of our rock stars this morning, and he was just talking about, look, something to the effect of our software working, and just, just the way that it's worked for some, and the way that it hasn't worked for others, and just like the utility of the software talking about, right? So you understand our software, it's very complex. We got an onboarding portal, we got a lead generation portal, we have got profit acceleration software, we've got digital acceleration software, we've got career coaching. So it's a complex, it's a mean animal in its best way, right? Well, so if you were to say to me, Carl, does this software work? Or how could I go about helping? Am I legitimately, do I have it in my bones? Do I have it in me? I'm not a Rhodes Scholar. I don't have a Harvard degree. Can I be a needle-moving business coach in your opinion? And I would say this. Let me give you an example of gentleman Dave Brailsford, Sir Dave Brailsford. You may or may not know that name, but he got knighted 100 years old. Okay, British cycling. Shout out to Todd Saylor, by the way, for this story. He's one of my clients. He's been a legend. He's a world record, very cool guy. High-end guy. He does some really, really high-end events. At the end of the day, over 100 years, the British cycling team just sucked. They won one gold medal in all time. And then basically he was hired in 2003 to basically take the British cycling team to new heights, right? Okay, so he was hired because of what he calls the aggregation of marginal gains. You may or may not have heard of that, but let me just explain. What he did is, so he got hired, and he goes, look, not only was he was hired, but his goal was not to be okay. His goal was to absolutely crush it. And he said, I am going to make the British cycling team a world force. And the people are looking at him again. They had mediocre results at best for 100 years and won one gold medal. In fact, the first sponsor that he went to for the team, they actually said, no, we won't sponsor your team, but we also won't sell to your team because your team's so bad that we don't want our gear to be seen on your riders. That's no joke. It's a very famous story. But anyway, so what he did, if he took British cycling, he took cycling and he broke it into 100 individual units. Okay? And then what he wanted to do is he wanted to make a 1% improvement in all 100 areas. Okay? So example, the clothing that they wore, the shirts, and not only the shirt and the style, but the fabric that they used. Wanted to be as aerodynamic in the tightness. Aerodynamic as possible. The helmets that they use. Have you ever seen those really funky helmets? He was effectively in charge of that. So did it make a huge improvement? No. Did it make a slight improvement? The answer is absolutely. So that was one out of the units. And then he had And then he went to the tires, right? The type of tires that they used, thickness of the tires, the way they cleaned the tires, these were all like different units. It was the seat that they sat on. They ended up actually making the seat a little bit more comfortable, which made training more, training easy. It wasn't about the race. It was about the training to get to the race. It was also massage gels for muscle recovery. It was sleeping. The pillows that they used, the temperature that they sleep at, the sheets that they used, the size of the pillow. He painted all of the trucks. They transported the bikes white for the simple reason that they could see dust easier. Because what happens to dust? It falls off the truck. It lands where? On the bike. What is that going to do to performance? Answer, nothing. But apparently, that falls into the chain, and it happens a couple times in the chain. That can affect it. That can be a millisecond difference. It was the way they also stored the chains. So no, you get the idea, right? He broke cycling up into 100 units. Okay, they had 100 years of very mediocre results. One golden goal over 100 years. In 5 years, they went to the 2008 was the Beijing Games, and they won 60% of the gold medals available, and they set 7 world records. So they expected it to be a 10-year plan. He ended up doing it in 5. But it was really needle moving. And by the way, I believe they won 5 Tour de France. They never won a Tour de France ever, and they won 5 of 6 years. Right, so 5 of 6 years, almost 6 years, 5 years in a row, almost. Right, and by the way, it's like 170 world championships and 66 gold medals during that time. And it was known as the most successful run in cycling history. That being said, why am I telling you about the aggregation of marginal gains? Our software, okay, Jumpstart 12. There's 12 key areas, and we make slight 3 to 5% adjustments in 12 areas. Okay, you go to those 12 areas and you make a small incremental improvement in all of them. What happens is you get to multiply instead of add. You get an exponential return, a compounding return, and this is how you can go about working with a business owner who's making, this is called 100 grand. This is the argument. And you can pretty much double their profits without them hiring anybody, without them learning Facebook ads, advertising on LinkedIn, doing a bunch of cold outreach, retraining their staff, flying the floor, and do the next big Tony Robbins event. At the end of the day, their existing business, you just hit a bunch of singles in 12 different areas, and results can be mind-boggling. And of course, you go from Jumpstart 12, and if you're familiar with our software, we then got the Jumpstart 40, and then we've got the Deep Dive 40. When you go to 40 with the same approach of aggregation of marginal gains, the impact that you can have is just literally mind-boggling. Literally mind-boggling. So thinking about that, also, so there's a story that I've told many times over the years, and I thought it was very popular. But it's like how shiny light syndrome tends to take over, and you just go in this direction, that direction, this direction, that direction, this direction, that direction. Look, Kobe Bryant is the best story. I didn't see an interview where he's 15 years old and he's like, I want to be the greatest basketball player of all time. He didn't want to be awesome. He didn't want to be elite. He didn't want to make an all-star team. He didn't want to make millions of dollars. He didn't want to marry the sexiest girl in high school. He wanted to be the greatest basketball player of all time, right? Well, and by the way, he didn't deviate. At the age of 15, that was his goal. And at the age of 35, that was his goal. That's the hack. Okay, so just think of a dartboard. If you and I were standing in front of a dartboard and we threw it, where would we throw the dart? And the answer is the center, right? I would do it. You would do it. Our kids would do it, right? So he had the center of his dartboard. My question is, do you have the center of the dartboard? Like maybe you want to build a team of coaches. Maybe you want to have 10 coaches underneath you. We have a program where we help people build a team of 10 coaches. If that's your goal, then that's your goal. Do not deviate. Do not go off. You might want to have a team of 100 coaches. You want to have a team of 50 coaches. Or you might want to do 10 local live events in 10 weeks. Or you might want to do 52 live events in 52 weeks. Okay, well, set that as your target and do not deviate. Every time you meet somebody and they're interested, you say, come to my event. You go to a networking function and they are interested, you say, come to my event. You get referred a business owner, you say, come to my event. Right? So all roads lead to set yourself up. For Kobe Bryant, you want to be the greatest basketball player of all time. Here's the exercise that I do. Be Kobe Bryant for a minute. And there's chocolate and there's broccoli sitting on the table. Which one does he want? I'm going to tell you the same one that you want, which is the chocolate. But which one does he grab? Because he wanted to be the greatest basketball player of all time. He grabs the broccoli. Which one do you grab is the question. And there's a chance that you're grabbing the chocolate. And also a chance that you're grabbing the broccoli. And I would high-five you. But I can tell you, without that North Star, without that goal, without that center of the dartboard, probably not going to. So again, you've got to set your target that you've got to not deviate. And the last thing that I would leave you with is something, again, our new clients, they see a video that I created, just simply a story of Mel Fisher. I think basically he found, I think it was a $450 million treasure off the Florida Keys. Took him 17 years to do it. Most people won't spend 17 days or 17 weeks, let alone 17 months to do something. Never 17 years. He lost a son, he lost a wife, he lost a brother-in-law, and he lost his fortune. At the end of the day, he had 3 core beliefs. One was that it was there. The treasure was there. Okay? The second core belief he had was that he was the guy that could find it. He believed that he was the guy that could find it. And then the third core belief was absolutely critical, was that it will be worth it. When his son died, daughter-in-law died, lost his wife, he believed that it would be worth it. Okay. And to him, he believed that it would be worth it, and I dare say that he would show, he believed that it was worth it, and he was the guy that found it. So, translation for you. Do you believe that there are the business owners in your area, and do they want to grow? 2, are you the right person that can go and help them? And are you willing to do it? Don't do your best. Are you willing to do what it takes to be there? Right? And then thirdly, and really importantly, will it worth it? So when someone tells you to F off, what are you going to do? When you do a local live event and nobody shows up, what are you going to do? When you do a second live event and only 2 people show up and you feel a bit silly, what are you going to do? When you take on 3 clients and 2 quit within 2 months because you're new, what are you going to do? And I'm going to suggest that you will be remembered for what you refuse to give up on. And that is where you become a Kobe Bryant, a Mel Fisher, a Dave Brailsford, where you refuse to give up and you really make a bit of a legend of yourself. So that's what I would dare say. That's what I would dare say. Maybe the last thing is just understanding that team. Okay, without a team, if you're going to be a one-man band, you're going to struggle to get the multiple 6 figures and certainly 7 figures. Right? Surely it's been done, but we don't play with anomalies. We only play with percentages. Problem is you need to know what the right team looks like. Right? So I played some hockey in my day. I can tell you this: if we put the 3 best goal scorers on the team, it doesn't tend to end very well. Right? You need a fighter. You need a grinder. You need a guy who can pass the puck. You need a guy who can score. You need somebody who defends. You need a goalie. You need all of these different, individuals on your team in order to get there. And sometimes like attracts like. So often when I look at your team, I'm looking at something similar to yourself. And that is not the roadmap you should be following. So you've got to be able to identify what is one A-grade player is worth like 10 B-grade players, by the way. So how do you identify a B-grade player? And I can tell you that is somebody who wants to be measured. Okay? So, for example, like I went to high school and I was brutal in high school. Okay, so report card day was not exactly. I was valedictorian of our high school. I'm speaking to school. Hit himself right in the back. intelligent guy who loved report card day, and I hated it. I was not an A-level player in high school, right? He was. On my hockey team, I can tell you, I knew exactly how many goals I had. I knew exactly how many assists I had. I knew exactly how many points I had. I knew exactly how many penalty minutes I had. I knew exactly who the guy leading the league. And you know, was, and right? Again, any great players. You're thinking about and that a family not hard to get thrown out. So you got to think that team. You go to Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. I can tell you that the team this year doesn't look like the team last year, and next year it's going to look alike. Right? They're probably there's down either the other teams in the minors or whatever. So got to approach it like a team, not a family. I think that is important. And that is all I got for business coaching secrets. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.